It's TRAKRKR.
Oh, the triangle. Triangle, like, virtues. But, so here we go. Buh. Oh, ini. Mo. 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 Very posh. But now, 4 management, so this is just. Mo. Obiara. Ba. Mo. The next one is a mat. So how do you say mat in our languages? Any? You never know. Mo.
Yeah, I learned Yoruba in school. Primary school, secondary school. Because where I live, Yoruba is spoken like Yoruba is
Mo. Mo. So when he does well, we say Okare.
Or chiche.
That's Chiche ever.
Yeah, chiche.
Chiche.
Yeah.
So you're about Okare.
Okari.
For
Okari.
From Matt.
Hmm?
For chicha for Matt.
That's like well done.
Oh, that's Matt. No, I was saying Yoruba, if he does well, then we say Okare.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been saying Mo to people in P. Okare is Yoruba. What would we say anyway? Or like you've done well.
Ejagbagba.
Ejagbagba.
Yeah,
Good job.
Ejagbagba.
yeah, so Matt is chiche.
Chiche.
Chiche. Or haba. Yes, I got chiche now.
You had your Matt in Toronto. He said the floor is too cold for this one. Alright. Next one, Puff Adder. Puff Adder. This one should be easy for those who know cheese.
It's a specific snake.
Yes. Also called a horned viper.
Oh. It's scary. That's the real National Geographic. No, on National Geographic. Viper. How is that phonetically pronounced? In Merrimack, do you like from right to left or left to right?
Right to left is more common. Left to right is also there, and then up to down. So when it's up to down, like you'll be able to tell because you're reading towards the animate. So whether it's human or animal, typically you're reading towards. Well, well. Mo. Mo. Okari. So it may not seem easy to believe, but by the time we get done with this book, and literally you can read the book in a week, you'll be able to read, I would say a good 50% of text, which are offering formulas, right?
So like when you get the formulas, do you read it like any other language? So if, for example, if the snake is put by, so it would be Fafa.
Where the stamp is.
Snake is and the hand is
So is that everyone on the snakes? Now I have So this is, what do we call this? Owl.
Ajay.
So move. Do people say Google Drive is better or Dropbox is better? Or either way?
Yeah, it's, I think I would say Dropbox.
Okay.
Is better. But then Google Drive is more common. Everyone has
So right now everything is in both. Everything that's in the Dropbox is in the Google Drive and vice versa. So I'll maintain the two for now. If it gets too unwieldy, I'll be like, y'all gotta choose. Also on the same site, Library of Genesis, you can get the 3 volumes, Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and New Kingdom, Ancient Egyptian literature. And it's all in translation, so it doesn't have the Medu-Neter, it just has the translation. But it's very good to give you a broad overview of the entire history. And it has spiritual text, it has historical text, it has literature, literary text, poems, every single type of genre, so you can read those. Then that gives you a broad overview of what you should be looking after. Then, you say, all right, from there, let me go to the original source text. Let me tackle the Medu-Neter. Let's see how the translation matches up with the actual words. Let me look at each one of the symbols. Because you find that oftentimes Europeans do a very figurative type of translation to make it sound good, like Shakespearean to themselves. But instead of doing that, you just, what is it actually saying? And a lot of things get lost. There are a couple of articles that I have in the Dropbox and in the Google Drive where it's actually my Medu-Neter teacher who's going into how Europeans sometimes mistranslate stuff in order to read their own culture into it. So he's taking up the task on that. One is on Seshta, which is a word that's usually translated as mysteries or secrets. So he goes into it. It's about 3 or 4 different articles, but all of them are, trying to revise the warped, type of thing that Europeans try to put on, the African culture.
What are the text called?
What's that?
What's the text called?
In Ankh Journal. So here,
Journal?
yeah. So they're all in here. So one instructs the Ptah-hotep of grammatical and cultural analysis, expanding the meaning of the word Seshta, title Master of Secrets on the source of moonlight, celestial sphere in ancient Egypt. So all of those are very good just in terms of, all right, you can see what the texts that have been out there have been, but now, how would you look at it if you're seeing it from an African cultural type of perspective and view?
Are you familiar with Baba Ifudishi?
Yeah, I've heard of him. I haven't read anything by him, but I've heard several people mention him.
He's the first person that introduced me to.
Okay. This is where?
He's famous on YouTube, but he's based in New York.
Okay.
He's literally on the block in Harlem.
Okay. I've heard the name several times, but I don't know him like that.
He's apparently a Kemetic priest.
Okay. Is he in Ron Nephra men's group? Or he's okay. Well, so owl, you're kind of saying. Well, Ajehe. Ajehe.
The funny thing, if you translate it to English, it means witch bird.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ajeh.
Ajay is which?
Yeah. LA is also witch.
Ajeh.
Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding me.
You right.
And then the hair is like Ayeh.
Aya is bird.
Ayeh Ajeh. But the order is different.
Okay.
But this is what I found, because we did a study on this Kiliji, and they speak it like Balai, Bando, these types of areas. It's Yoruba. It's the furthest west Yoruba that we have, other than those who were retransported to Sierra Leone after the Imali revolt in Brazil and others. But they speak Yoruba, but the order is like the order that you find here in Ghana. So the words are Yoruba words, but the order has been transposed. And what brought that up is they have Oko Alija. They call it Oko Alija. But what it is Orisha, Oko Shomo Orisha Oko. It's the Orisha of the farm. But here they just took it Oko Alija. So that helps us to find out, okay, where we find the L's here, it's going to be R in the Yoruba. Anytime we find the sh here, it's going to be a J in the Yoruba. So this is how you actually do the historical linguistics, is that you show the parallels. Every time you see this here, you should see the other one. It's not just this word looks like this word, therefore we're done. So that's where you get started. When you can show a systematic, that's when you are actually substantiating that my hunch, was actually on point. Now, when you see those, that should tell you that these two should be the same similar, right? So if S is this here and T is this, that should tell me what the T's are going to be here in relation to whatever this is going to be here. So it should make a pattern throughout the entire language, not just this word looks like that, and I'm done.
Another similarity is if you go into our traditional spirituality, you have that afan.
Yeah, and then Ifa.
Yeah,
that's Ifa.
It's literally Yoruba words.
Yeah.
Kameji, Abrameji. It's all Yoruba words.
It's Erikwe Ibatani. You see that you're relatives. But in the one I was talking about, Kiliji, the language, it's interesting because they have Okorish, they have Orisha Oko, what they call Oko Alija. Then they also have Shakwana, Babaluaye, which is smallpox. So Orisha Oko is associated with leprosy. Shakwana, of course, is associated with smallpox. You have Ogun, who's, also, usually you have those three together. So we were talking about, we want to get into the history of why those, one, like Orisha Oko and Ogun are associated. They say that and you actually get some of these stories from Cuba, even more so than you get from Yoruba land proper now, where they say that at one point in time, Orisha Oko used to use a stick to do farming. But then Ogun came with iron, and that revolutionized. So what's being talked about is the beginning of using iron. So you're going back thousands of years, and you're documenting it in, the spiritual texts, right? But basically, that's why you have Orisha Oko and Ogun always linked together, and then you have Orisha Oko and Shakwana linked together on the disease front. So it's those three. So perhaps may have been a smallpox outbreak, and they said, all right, we need to go to these folks who know how to really deal with smallpox, or a leprosy outbreak, and they said, all right, let's deal with the folks. So it's a technology sharing, it's other things to really get a handle on it based on the spiritual system. So they associate Yoruba language with the spiritual system to the point where you're not allowed to speak it unless you're in this ritual space. Right? Yeah. I did an article on that, so if you look up Kiliji.
Kiliji, how do you spell it, please?
Kiliji. I forgot what the full name of the article is, I should tell you. But you'll see it. If you just do my name in Kiliji, it'll come up. And then, so that's water. Still. How do you say in ever?
No more door.
No more.
Aleke Oduna.
Okay, one more again.
Aleke Oduna.
Aleke Oduna. Aleke Oduna. Oduna. Aleke Oduna.
Oduna.
Oduna. Aleke Oduna. That's it?
Yeah, Aleke Oduna.
Aleke Oduna.
Or Aleke Oduna.
Aleke Oduna. Aleke, don't give me too many variations. Like, let me give you the 20 ways that you can say it. Pick what you like.
Aleke Oduna. And then
you say the thing?
Yeah.
Aleke Oduna. Water.
Echi.
Echi. Oh, I knew that. This philosopher, Martin Ajay, he's in the religion department, philosophy department, and he was talking about the airway concept of libation. It was Fuchi D, I think something, I don't know what the tones are. He was saying like striking a vibration and it had to do with the chi on the water. So it's ichi,
Apochi.
ahochi,
Apochi.
ahochi,
Apochi dying, or I think Apochi dying.
dying.
Yes, polarization.
Okay.
Apochi dying.
What's D then? Or is that wrong?
Or like the ground.
Oh, so the D is ground?
Yeah.
Ah,
Dying. Apochi D.
ahochi.
Like I speak a different dialect.
Yeah, no problem. No
So
problem.
Angola is Apochi D, and then
Ah.
mine is Apochi dying.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Anlo is that one? What's this one?
Mine is Epetome.
Ahitome. Okay.
Epetome.
The-
Apparently, Angola is like the written language.
Okay.
Ours is like spoken.
Okay, okay. Usually that ended up working out with whatever missionaries came there and decided to use the Latin script for it. Okay, cool. So, Ichi,
Echi.
Achi. Okay, so we need Achi. Everyone write your Achi.
What about you?
Omi Olo Ta O.
In Ghana, they say no.
No, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Achi. Achi. I say I want water.
Manochi.
Wanochi.
Manochi.
Manochi. Manochi. So Ma is the I. No is one.
Ma and no.
Ma and no.
No
Okay.
is water.
So
Like,
the
no is to drink.
drink. Okay.
So manu echi.
Manochi.
Yeah.
That's like the no.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
No
I think
and
in
no.
here it talks about the different, in the gray one, the different words for water and drink tend to be all in that same either no or mu. And even the nom in tree starts to come from nomu. And then you do a lot of stuff for nom. But originally nomu being shortened down. Nomu is you. And you hear it come back when you say stuff like that. It's not nom. It's you. You have to.
When the Locals have like a water god called Nomo. Yeah. Yo, we're all connected. This is so cool.
That's the point. That's the point.
So how do you
This
say
is a D.
water in Yoruba?
Again.
Omi.
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 You see all these different D's. Then here you see the ma. So you tend to see the D's of ma.
Yeah. Boko.
These are all from the continent, so only Mu is water.
Is it Lu? Is Lu?
No.
I know it's kind, sorry, water in Ghana, but only Ghana. I know it's also,
No.
you know,
Unuoga.
only one guy.
Well, that's the ear gun.
Oh, yeah. So,
Is it the same tone or different tone to hear and then for water?
To hear though, ask Unuo.
Or just the no part?
Even here it's the same because Unu.
Yeah,
You
unu.
heard it.
No. But it's going low for the question. But what is it just by itself? No.
Nu.
No.
Nu.
Okay, I think
Maybe
we
I
all.
think water and drink, they use the same thing.
No.
They come in the morning.
You see, I'm really getting free Ghana classes and airway classes as a community service. But we need to know. We have so is your mouth. Well, okay, to say you did well again at Jagba. I was about to say Matt. Was it Chiche?
Chiche.
Chiche. Okay. Matt. They're looking at like. With Jagba.
Yeah.
Good job, bro.
At Jagba. At Jagba. I'll think about that like Yoruba. At Jet Agba. That would be like you are an elder.
Yeah.
Oh.
At Jagba.
But Yoruba intonations and our intonations are really
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I mean, the
But
Bible.
isn't Ed like referring to like somebody?
Yeah.
You're referring directly to the person.
So Ed is another person.
Yeah.
Like third person.
Yeah.
Okay. And Yoruba you use O for someone younger, you use F for someone older, or a group. Alright, because our time is running, I want us to practice writing the rest of these in your notebooks. Did I keep? Okay. And for my presentation yesterday, I was using JSesh. And what that does is that allows you to just write things in Medu Neter. So what I want us to do is that you have also writing things out in full. So here is given just a, for our convenience, we could pronounce this one, apedu, like apedu, for birds, right? Let me scroll in. But again, you know, all of this is conventional, right? Like if the vowels aren't there, just inserting an A in there, so apedu. And you'll see this in different offering texts. You know, when you're doing a sacrifice, that one of the sacrifices tends to be birds, similar that you do here. It may be a dove, it may be a pigeon, it may be a chicken. So apedu. Does anyone want to try to write apedu? That's what we find here. So what we're doing, we're combining the different ones that we worked on so far. And at your own convenience, you can read through the prose, but generally we're just going to go straight to the examples, right? The Medu Neter, so we can make the most of our time here. So I think I told you I took 15,000 pictures when I was in Kemet this past May.
How long were you there for?
Oh, you need the,
It's not
A
that.
week.
It's not the arm. It's the hand.
yeah, just a hand. So this is me doing my guerrilla scholarship. So in the so-called Valley of the Kings, you're not supposed to take pictures. So this is the inside of Jehuti Mess's tomb. So what I did is I took every single square inch. I did a photograph, so I just had to use my phone. So I had to make sure I had something with a pocket here. So I put the phone in the pocket, then turned it on, and then started doing this. But then, you know, it's these two Arabs. Every place you go into, they have two Arabs. They just be like, Bashish? Okay, go ahead. Then when somebody goes, okay, go ahead. So I did a lot of video in here, but I did every single thing that's written in the tomb of Yehudi Mess. And I regret I didn't get a chance to go to Ramesses III, because that's the one where you have what they call a mural of the races that shows the people of Kemet the exact same thing as the people of Nubia. And then it shows what the Arabs look like, what they call Asiatics, and then the Arabs who had already gotten into North Africa by that time. So it shows you what each one looked like, you know, by that point in time. What I wanted to do, and I didn't have enough time to, I saw on Amazon they have these glasses, you know, like these glasses, but it has a camera here, like real spy stuff. And some of them are in HD, so you know you could just do screen grabs. You know, you just stay there, stay still. All right, good, I got it. Mo- Very good, very good, very good.
And the man who tried to say, I'm going to do
David, since I need me inside, I say, we I try to want to say, if I am a man, maybe I think if I the football, so we not what you say, so this is what we're talking about, the U. So these three strokes here at the end is the U, and that's what makes it plural. So that's when you say flower. The U at the end is what makes it plural. For feminine, it's oot.
So T is a feminine qualifier?
Yes.
So offset.
Yes.
Facade.
I'm in that right, and so forth and so on. So this is a name, Sinbi. So Sinbi. Now, how do you know that you should be reading this way? Because animate objects, you read towards the animate objects. So if this was turned the other way, then I would know, all right, I should be reading this way. Now, in texts like these and books like these, they usually write them left to right, especially when it's in English, because people are used to reading left to right. But when you go to the actual, you know, monuments and things, it tends to be right to left. Or if it's, you know, a mural that shows this one facing here, then the words are going to be above that person's head, and you read towards the animate, including the person who's here. Then you'll see another person here, so you'll see different directions. So me, my word. It's sort of like when you see comic strip cartoons, it'll show above my head, this is me, then above my head, this is what I'm saying, or something about me. So this is Sinbi. Sinbi. Now, I think I showed you all last time, I had this Arab guy who was trying to tell me that Min Keppara was Neb Keppara. So I was like, imagine if I didn't know Medu Neter, I'd just be like, yeah. So it's like, yes, and here you see Neb Keppara. I was like, you mean Min Keppara? Yes, Min Keppara. I was like, man. if you go, and the thing is, these Arabs, they don't have nothing to do with it. So it's just, whatever, just give me my bashish and let me go. Bashish. As soon as I say you know what's up, it's like, all right, this is familiar. Did I show y'all that clip last time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The tour guide covered up.
I was like, imagine, this is the thing, if you're illiterate, then you're at the mercy of people who are literate. They can tell you anything. This says, give me all your money.
So this is Sandy.
Sandy.
Now to know it's an official. What did you put in?
So you can put a determinative. Sometimes if it's a male, then you'll see a determinative for a male. Sometimes it's a female, but other times you'll just see the name without anything after. Especially if it's a high official, then you'll see, if it's a male, you'll see him seated in a chair, sometimes holding, what is this called? You look at it. What's that?
Scepter.
You look. Mm-mm.
Scepter.
See, now you're making me forget English. It's a symbol of authority, and they do a similar thing, like a cowtail switch or horsetail switch, like that one. You look at it. Yeah. So they do the same thing here. So you'll see a confort who, when they're dancing, they'll have this in their hand. So these are determinatives that you'll see. And the determinative is just to give you an idea of what came in front. This is the general idea. So if I see a man or something to do with a man's occupation, then I'll see this one after. So it's giving the determinative and then giving you an example of a word that has that determinative, right? So does anyone want to write either the determinative? Let's write the word on the right-hand side because that'll include the determinative. So, man.
Doc, it says in the text that in Egyptian, all nouns are treated as being either masculine or feminine. Is there a reason for that? It's just
That's the grammar of the language, and you find this is one of the things that struck me, especially learning contemporary African languages, that you have pronouns that are generic, so all covers both male and feminine, but for Medu Neter, everything is either masculine or feminine. You do find some contemporary African languages that work like that, but by and large, it seems that that type of distinction started to die out. So, it has implications in terms of, feminism, womanism, and things of that nature that is built into the language. So you can't have a thing of, all right, man is better or woman is better. It's like we're just gonna, all bye. Same thing, you're about, la. So it's just like, and it makes you think about what types of discourses or conversations led to this type of deal. So you still find some that are either have a masculine or feminine, but then you have others where it's just, what's the word, androgynous?
Because you often find it in names alone,
Yeah.
in words.
Like why? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that too, because when we were talking about ut, so the feminine plural, ut, and thinking, perhaps that why may come from a wat or something of that nature. But again, all these require more research, because right now it's Europeans who are doing the majority of this type of research. So until we get in there with our languages, you understand? So how do we say man in Medu Neter? How do you say man in Ewe?
Unchu.
Uchu. Unchu. Okay. Unchu. That reminds me of Muntu for person or human being in Bantu languages. So when you say Bantu, the Ba is plural, Muntu, but Muntu is singular. Muntu. This is how I'm going to remember it. That's Ewe. Yoruba Bawa that's in so. Okay.
Or if I even pronounce it right, it's Nuchu. It's like Nuchu,
Nuchu.
which is like male thing.
Nuchu.
If you're to literally, because
Yeah.
Nu is like thing or everything that is.
Mm.
A chu is
Also like
male.
Dunu. Dunu like
Yeah,
to
Nu is like food or it could mean something
eat.
or
Eating.
thing.
Yeah.
So Nuchu is like male thing.
Okay.
Nuchu.
What about twin?
Venovi,
Venovi.
which means two siblings.
What's the V?
Eve is two.
Okay, Efe.
And Novi is sibling.
Okay.
Venovi.
Okay. One of my colleagues, I call her Novi.
Yo,
Okay. Okay.
Novi means mother's child.
Novi. So no mother V.
I just took that.
It's just a word, right? Novi.
Oh, true.
That's like Enna is mother. Enna kind of Enna. Oh yeah. Soccer. Todo lo que cocina. So it's interesting. I was writing an article on Dikenga, and I was mentioning the different positions of the sun. Now, for the midnight position is Asar, but one of my reviewers was like, Sokar is also a solar deity, and that one preceded Asar. But I actually went back to the pyramid texts, which are the oldest spiritual texts in the world, and it said that the origin of Sokar was when Asar was saying Sakari, which is get away from me, you get away from me, and that's how Sokar came into being. So you can't have Sokar coming before Asar, when Asar's utterance is what brought Sokar into being. And since that's the oldest spiritual text, we can't get too much before that until the documentation. But when we're talking about text, we're talking about a compendium of like volumes and volumes of information. So all throughout the inside of the pyramid. If you do a search for the Pyramid of Unas, that's how they usually write it in English, U-N-A-S. It's like how I was saying, everywhere you go, every single square millimeter is covered with writing. And especially in that one, you know, on the ceiling, on the walls. And it's tiny and it's beautiful. It's perfectly symmetrical, perfectly arranged, every single line, measured as far as I can see. Look. Okay, so we're at 3. Let's finish off with some images from Kemet. We'll call it a day, and then from there you all will work on it independently. And like I said, we may continue to have new people coming, but what I want to do, instead of like, let's go right back over to uniliterals, we'll never get anywhere. So if those who have been here can help those, and then we'll just pick up from right there, determinatives, and just keep it moving like that. So Ipet Sut, that is what they call Karnak Temple to Amen. Ipet Resut, that is the small temple to Mut, which is the wife of Amen. Hut Waset, that is the museum in Waset, what they call Luxor of Thebes. Jesser Jesseru, that's Hatshepsut's temple. Hapi, this is actually just images of the Nile River. Imhotep III, that is the Colossi of Memnon, they call it. Ramesses II, that's the Ramesseum. Tasaket Ma'at, that's the, what we call the Valley of the Kings. Behdet. So what I decided to do, because all of these have Arab names, so I just wrote things according to what the original name was. You have Tasahet Ma'at, Betdet, that's a temple to Heru. Nubet, that is the temple to, that's what they call, what is this? The temple to Sobek, the crocodile deity. It's actually a dual temple to both Sobek and Heru. Filak, that's a temple to Auset, also called Isis. Hut Ramesses, Mary Amun, that is Abu Simbel, where you see these four huge gargantuan statues all seated. That's the big one, then the four standing. And then Hut Kemet, that's the Egyptian museum. Then Mer Khufu, that is the pyramid. So which one do we want to look at some of the images from? Okay. Because you said it first. The loudest. Let's scroll down. So let's start here so you can get an image of how big this is.
So are there like non-official pyramids, like pyramids that have been discovered that they don't allow the public to go to?
Yeah. You can't go into all of them.
Okay.
So I got a chance to go into one, Seneferu's pyramid. They call it the Red Pyramid. Some you got to pay to get in. The Step Pyramid was being renovated when I was there, so I was like, next time I'll go there because you not only have the Step Pyramid. So look at the size of this. This isn't the biggest one.
Oh wow.
So look at the people here. And this is how tall this person is. 2 people on top of each other, 3 people. And just keep going. How many people do you have standing on top of each other? You get to that. And this one has, you used to have this, I think it's an alabaster stone on top of it. But what the Arabs did is that they stripped those off to make mosques and other stuff, which is how you know Arabs didn't have anything to do with it, amongst other reasons.
So that would reflect the sunlight.
Yeah. So they said it was perfectly polished and everything on all 4 sides. Yeah. Black power. So this is the size of a car. So this gives you a perspective, right? This is the size of
One
a boulder.
boulder? One boulder is the size.
One boulder.
Wow.
So like I could sit in this and this is a taxi. So imagine how many taxis you got stacked on top of each other. Each one is a ton. Each one is a ton. And it's perfectly aligned north, south, east, and west, less than 1 degree of accuracy to perfect north, perfect south, perfect east, perfect west.
Wait, is that one by Amenhotep?
No, this is Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure. So these are the Great Pyramids.
How do you forget all of these things?
To the point where we can't even get steps. The steps here, you trip because this one is this high, this one is this high. Like, just measure this thing, man. So this is a Great Pyramid in the background.
The Pyramid of Giza?
Yeah. So these are 3. So I was standing on the smaller one, and then you have Khufu's boat in this one. So people kept wanting to take pictures of me because I'm wrapped in my cloth. I'm like, yo, this is a homecoming. And then these are what was stripped off. This type of stone is what was stripped off. So you still have like shards of it around. So Usa Ra Ib Ka F. This is your homework assignment. What's that saying? Usa Ra Ib Ka F. So it should be at the point that anything you see, if you don't automatically know how to read it, be like, all right, let me take it down. And I think I told y'all last time that when I first got there, I was looking at a statue. I was like, oh, I wonder who that's a statue of. Then I realized, oh shoot, I can read this. And there was a song called "The Path" by Ralph McDonald, and I grew up listening to that song. Now I never knew that the beginning of the song is in Yoruba. It was just they talking African, whatever. Then I started studying Yoruba, and then I came home for Kwanzaa, and we always just play that song amongst others. And they would play it, I was like, oh shit, I know what he's saying. It was like all these things that were just like whatever. It's like noon, you know, when you start off as just, you know, not organized, but things start to take shape, start to take form. And it's like that with all things. Usura Ibkai. Everybody got that down?
What's the vibe like there?
Too many Arab. And the whole time you'll be gritting your teeth like, we gotta take our stuff back, man. The whole time you'll be like, we gotta take our stuff back. So that, you know, that should inform our engineering and our science of how you're gonna take it back. What are you gonna do to get it back? You understand? So your scientific pursuits inform your humanitarian, I mean, I say humanitarian, your humanistic types of pursuits. If you wanna get some land, yo, now you gotta get your stuff out. So here you see Moot, here you see Neb underneath, you say T. So you can't get much from that. This should be Nebwi, which are the two ladies of Kemet. So this is the vulture, and then this one should be the cobra. But it's all scratched out. You just have to know the context where you would see something like that. So this is huge, y'all. This is huge. Look, this is a horse.
And horses are giant.
Horses are pretty big, right? Let me take y'all down to Hor M. Akit. So I was riding the camel by myself, and the guy was like, oh, you want to just ride it by yourself? I'm like, yeah, I got this, man. I did video too. So these,
Oh, that's the Sphinx.
yeah. So you walk down and you're at Hor Makit. So Hor is Horus or Heru. Is inside. Then Aket is the horizon. This is Horus inside the horizon. And at the summer solstice, the sun sets perfectly behind the head of Hor Makit, in between the two pyramids. So you're looking at it approaching, and it's set up. So think about, again, the science, and you need the mathematics you need to make that happen, right? So it's a very fascinating field called archaeoastronomy, where all of these, basically it deals with how all the pyramids, all the monuments and everything were in alignment with different celestial or solar phenomena.
Oh, is it that, he's like an Arab professor, but he sympathizes with Black Kemet. It's called Bufal.
Yeah. So you see his stuff, but it's really huge in Italy, Spain, Portugal, like archaeoastronomy, like that's what they do. And it was weird because as you're going through all these different places, you're hearing people speak Spanish, you're hearing people speak Japanese and Chinese, and actually I think it's all Chinese, I don't think it was Japanese. But you know, everybody is studying our stuff except for us. We don't even know it exists.
Wow, that's powerful.
So I was like, we reconstruct this every single time we go back, right? So they destroyed the nose every time I go back, the nose is right back. I think y'all see the family resemblance here. So they had this guy behind here acting like he was lifting up the head. So like how they had me do this, like I'm on top of it, so everybody's doing their little poses. He's doing like his hand is on top. But the cloth I'm wearing is actually called the Door of Return, and it has a Sankofa in it, so I intentionally decided to wear that because it was my first time back in Kemet, and it lasts about 2,000 to 3,000 years.
I
So
like how you put that.
Yeah. Yup, I ain't been here in a minute, man. This is my aunt. Represent. We were about to leave. I was like, no, I gotta get my pictures with my aunt. This is the step pyramid, like I said, was under construction. So I was like, you know, if I can't go
Is
in.
that the pyramid of Saqqara?
Yeah. Imhotep, very first pyramid ever. and then this is inside Seneferu's pyramid. So by this point in time, they stopped carving inside the pyramid, they stopped writing inside the pyramid. So the pyramid texts are all from pyramids older. Now this is from halfway up. Now you're climbing like this, and you have to be crouched down like this the whole time you're climbing up. So by the time you get halfway, Robin, and I was like, I'm in pretty good shape. If you're in the shape, you're dying. You're gonna get a stroke and a heart attack halfway through, because it's literally like torture. And even to get up there, you gotta climb up the side of it. So this is the bent pyramid,
What is it called?
the bent pyramid. So that's also Seneferu. So the idea, and this is, was said that initially they were doing a very steep angle. So it would have been up like this, right? But it was so steep that it collapsed on itself.
Oh.
Now, this is the type of angle that you have in Nubia, where you have even more pyramids, right? That they were trying to do like that Nubian type of slope, but just on a grander scale. But with all these heavy boulders, heavy blocks, you can't get that type of scale. So then from there, they kind of said, let's temper our idea in terms of angles.
Nubia is where the pyramid started out, right?
So you start off with mastabas, which are like single levels, right? And then the idea that Imhotep had was an innovation, was put one on top of another. So let's do this in stone, let's do one on top of another. So the very first one is Imhotep's, but you have more in what's contemporary Sudan than you have in Kemet. But the very first idea was this one, to do it like this, and then over time, it went to like this one, and then it collapsed. They said, let's do it like this, and then you start to have the ones that we're more familiar with.
A little bit of digression. So like, is Imhotep and his people the same people behind the pyramids in Asia and Peru and Guatemala?
And underwater.
Yeah, underwater.
Yeah, triangle.
Yeah, just do a search, because the oceans have been up and down, and this is the thing. So the ocean levels are rising, so you have a change where all these different ice caps, Antarctica, all this is starting to melt. So all these places that are at the ocean, now people tend to be by the ocean because that's trade, that's ships, whatever. So as the ocean level rises, all these cities, including Manhattan, including London, including Accra, all these places are going to be underwater. So all these civilizations that were beachfront property are going to be underwater property. So if you just do a search, you'll see, you can actually look at the images of towns, cities, and huge structures that are now underwater that at one point in time were beachfront property. That's why I bought some land up in Mampong, because I'm going to have some beachfront property very soon. Just got to plan for the future, right? Oh yeah, so in terms of the connections, this is the thing, inside of the Mayan pyramids, you have smaller pyramids. So like the Mayan pyramids are encased over the older Olmec pyramids. So the connection with the Olmecs, we talked about it briefly here, was that there were black people who were going there. And you had this Eurasian Thor Heyerdahl, wanted to test and see, all right, is this feasible? Can we use like these reed boats or papyrus boats that they used to use and get across? And they were able to do it when they went to Chad and dealt with the folks who were still building ships in the same way. So in terms of the connection, it's very strong, that at least, in the Western Hemisphere, I haven't encountered much in terms of the connections where black people are going, but Runoko Rashidi has African presence in early Asia, where it says initially all of those populations were black. You can still go into there and find the black population. And he said everywhere but China. And, he said that was the one place where, people seem very resistant to this idea of indigenous black people. But when you look at, ancient scrolls that show, all right, we're giving you a giraffe as a gift. There was trade, there was commerce, there was all this stuff going on. But I haven't seen anything conclusive that says, yeah, it was black people there who built the pyramid. But it requires more research, right? So if that's what we're interested in, because we're a study group, right? We can say this is a topic that you know, we should go further in depth into. But, you know, look at Alvin Van Sartimo's work, look at Runoko Rashid's, yeah, look at Runoko Rashid's work.
I forget the name of the author, but there's this book called When Rocks Cry Out.
I don't know that.
I'll remember the author that she wrote. It also talks about how Kemet was a civilization that it was a global civilization, and how Kemet was in Peru, and how Peru is actually Jerusalem.
Okay. So this is the interesting thing about the pyramids in terms of prime meridian. So if you look at landmass, I don't know if y'all are familiar with this. If you look at landmass, where you have the longest landmass in terms of latitude of North America, the longest landmass in terms of Africa, the longest landmass in terms of Asia. If you add up all of those miles of just land, and not including the ocean, but just where the land is at, the place where you get the most landmass is right exactly where the Great Pyramid is. That's going flat. And you can actually look at this online and it shows you. And then the longest in terms of height landmass, that's all of Africa going up into Eurasia, going up into, you know, well, Eurasia, it's not Europe, it's Eurasia. So you add up all of that, the longest landmass there is also exactly where the Great Pyramid is. So in order to, it's a 1 in a billion chance that you can just do that on happenstance, that I don't know, let's just put it here, that it requires a calculation to know that this is where the most landmass is at on this direction, this is where the most landmass is on this direction. We're gonna put it exactly in the middle of those, and then we're gonna do it exactly north, south, east, west, exactly true north, boom, boom, boom. So just in order to be able to do that, you have to know much more than, all right, I just happen to be here. All right, so I think we'll close out with that. We got plenty images from Kemet. And again, the main thing that I was doing was text, because I was like, when we get back to Ghana, we're going to be reading all of these texts. And if my ancestors thought it was important enough to carve it into stone, then I definitely think it's important enough for me to take a picture of.
Did you see Ramses' mummy? The one with the red hair?
No, I don't even know where that is. Oh, I saw Amos's mummy. I think that was the only mummy that I saw, and that was in the museum of Waset. Yeah, but we'll close out and we'll pick it up next week.
All right.
We got lots to work on, so we can't cover everything in 1 week. But I think we did well. Everybody work on the determinatives for next time. And when you're taking your notes, take it into an African language. This isn't English practice.
When is it? What's that? What? Okay, then I will come. There's a reason why I for
So like 6.
Peace, Dr. Kama. Thank you.
All right, please take care. Yeah, double.
I don't.
You,
You're a bit shy.
you wish ya.